Hello, everyone. This is Melanie Gray, and welcome to another episode of Code Calm, where high responsibility leaders learn to regulate first and lead second. On this podcast, we have real conversations and practical tools that can help cultures shift that actually stick. Today, I'm excited to launch a special series, a podcast dedicated to women, their voices, experiences, and the realities that they are navigating at work, at home, and within themselves. In these episodes, we'll explore confidence, wellness, and leadership, as well as life transitions. Today, I'm so excited to have Christy Broom as my guest speaker. Christy specializes in aligning people skills and strategy to drive meaningful change. With over 2 decades of experience, Christy has partnered with organizations to design and implement scalable strategies that support business growth and transformation. Christy brings a practical systems-level approach to solving workforce challenges, and her work empowers organizations to build the capabilities they need today and to prepare for the next. Co-founder of Rising Tide Cooperative and Talent Rewire, Christy and her partner focus on helping organizations at the intersection of AI and people transformation. Now, I'm so excited because, Christy, I'm so glad to have you because people are afraid of AI. Tell us how you got into this space and why you're not afraid.
Yes. Oh, Melanie, well, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I am so honored to be on your podcast and to help your audience really understand AI and build confidence with it. So, how did I get into AI? It's a story from about 15 years ago is where it started. Sorry for the frog in my throat. My goodness. And I will tell you, so I have always been a person who loves technology. When I get a new software, a new app, as we are here in 2026, I'm the first to go poke around, see what it can do, play around. And so in my role at the time, that is what I did. And I became friends with our leader of technology. And when he was called to join a special project team, he said, "Christy, I want you to take over my technology team." And I said, "No, thank you. I can't even spell HTML. I am not taking over your technology team." And he said, "Yes. You are taking over my technology team. You are the perfect person for the job." That was in about 2007. And since then, my career trajectory has really involved helping organizations with technology, being on the leading edge of technology. And so when AI came into the picture, and by the way, AI has been around for a couple of decades now, it really is the ability for machines to recognize patterns and predict the next response. But the AI that we know today came onto the scene in November of 2022. We call that generative AI. And generative AI is different in that it takes those patterns and predicts, but also learns from them. And so as we know it today, generative AI, ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Claude, these tools can interact with us almost as if we're a human. So yes, I'm eager to share some tips with the audience today.
Well, Christy, the audience probably may wonder why would, as a woman who wants to be fearless, need to be open to using resources with AI. And can you give some examples of how AI can help our daily lives?
Yes, absolutely. So fearless women need to understand a couple of things. One is that the world of AI, so that pattern recognition, comes from being trained on the written word. And if we think about history, the written word, going back hundreds of years, was largely written by men. So, and Melanie, largely written by white men. And
Okay,
so,
now.
yep. And so women need to understand that in order for us to have our voice in the future, we need to be writing. We need to be training those AI models as well. So it is critically important for us to be using AI, to be interacting with it, not in a way that shares confidential or personal information. And I think that's where a lot of the fear comes from, but in a way that allows our voice and the unique capabilities that we bring as women to the world, into the world. So I think a lot of the fear has come from the fear of privacy concerns, which is
Hmm.
real. I think a lot of the fear has come from how quickly the technology is moving, which is real. But I think for women, I would say start small, right? I encourage women to think about what are the ways in which, what are the times in your day when you need to write something. And AI is a great writing companion. There are two
Yes.
approaches. One, you can start a draft. And I do this often. I say, I want to write something about this topic, and here are my thoughts, and here's a story. Go. And AI will flesh that out for me, and then I'll edit and I'll post it. That's one approach. The other approach is just to say, I want to write about this topic. Get me started. Build an outline for me. And then I can take that outline and build out my story, my paragraph, my article from there. And I use that as well. So those are a couple of really practical ways for women to get started in using AI and reducing that fear while also sharing their voice with the world.
Well, I'm a woman and I'm really afraid of AI taking my job. How am I going to prepare? I'm only 30 years old. How am I going to prepare for the next 30 years of my life and my career with AI moving so quickly?
Yeah, it's a really common fear. I'm glad you brought it up. I think the reality is AI will change the way we work. And I do foresee a world, I don't know the time frame, but I think it's very, very possible before 2030. It might come sooner than that. A world in which humans and AI are working alongside each other. So if you think about a team within an organization, it might be half human beings, half agents, right? And so that world is coming. So I think as a 30-year-old woman looking at your career ahead, the key is to embrace the technology, learn as much as you can, because despite what you might read in the news, there are actually very, very few organizations who are really on the edge of this. And so women who take the initiative to learn, to use, to build an area of specialty, just like that writing example that I just shared, is going to put you ahead. The second tip I would share is there are things that AI can't do because it's not a human being. There are capabilities that we as humans have and will always have, things like empathy and relationship building and
Yes.
discernment and judgment. Because while AI can recognize patterns, it can't really make decisions. And so, as a 30-year-old or as a woman of any age, building up your skills there, improving your ability to make good decisions, to use good judgment when presented with a series of options, to show empathy towards other human beings. Those are characteristics that even as AI begins to or continues to enter the workforce, those are uniquely human skills that will always prevail.
So you have daughters, you have children, right, Christy?
I do. I do.
Daughters? And so how are you preparing your children for AI, the advancements in AI in terms of college and education preparedness?
Yes, I've got one daughter and two sons, and it's interesting. They also have been a little bit afraid of it. And I think it's because in their school and their workplaces, they're being told not to use it, right? And so when AI first came on the scene, the educational system at every level had a fear of cheating, right? Of
Mhm.
plagiarism. Which is interesting because they're still the internet, right? And so if
There's
kids
still
want
the
to
internet. So
plagiarize,
Google.
yeah, they're still Google. AI has not necessarily made it easier. But what I would encourage them to do is to try. What I have found that my young adult children often use AI for is sort of a coach, right? So helping them understand, hey, I'm thinking about this thing in my work school life or in my personal life.
Mhm.
Can you help me work through it? And again, there's a line that we've discussed, right? We hear the stories of AI unfortunately going too far in the realm of being a counselor or a therapist. And so
Mhm.
I talk often with my kids about, you can use it as a conversational coach, but if you've got a serious, issue going on, come talk to me. I'm still the human. And I still have that
Yes.
judgment, that discernment, right? That life experience that AI will never have.
So you also work, so the Rising Tide Cooperative and Talent Rewire. Help me understand what that title means in terms of helping organizations adapt with AI and reduce stress and fear in their organizations.
Absolutely. So, Rising Tide Cooperative is a consultancy, and we named it that way because a rising tide lifts all boats. And we absolutely believe that if we work together as organizations, as human beings, that we
Mm-hmm.
can help to understand and drive the AI and human strategy of the future. If we don't, computers are pretty smart. And, the evolution could happen in a different way. And so, as part of that consultancy, we work with organizations who are building their AI strategy. And what we're seeing in this moment in time is a lot of organizations spent the last year choosing their tool and putting together
Mm-hmm.
teams to understand kind of security and governance around AI. And that's
Mm-hmm.
important. What they're looking at now as we transition into 2026 is where should it be integrated in workflows? What is the work that AI can start doing? An example, I was talking with an organization this week who's looking at AI in their accounting department to be able to match invoices and payments. It's a perfect
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. Humans don't need to do
Perfect.
that. Yeah. And so they're starting to look at that work. What that does is that creates then a gap. So if it's my job to match invoices to payments, then part of my job will go away. And so at Rising Tide, we look at that and we say, you know what? Christy, is a valuable employee. What else could she do? What are the other tasks and responsibilities we could give to her because of that gap? And so, if I'm in the accounting department, I likely have some financial capabilities, some analytical capabilities. I'm likely good with numbers, right? So, maybe there's another area of the organization that needs those skill sets. And so, we shift my job around. Maybe I job share between the accounting department and the project management department, as an example. So that's Rising Tide. Talent Rewire is a tool to help with that analysis. So it's software that looks at the work within an organization, looks at the people and the people data, the things that we know about them, their skills and capabilities and strengths, and then creates a roadmap for organizations to say, this work is best to be automated by AI. It's going to create
Mm.
gaps. So here's a plan to reskill your people so that they can make that transition between purely accounting to accounting and project management.
And so are you finding that organizations are open to retraining their people so that they can reallocate them? They're not
Most
looking to push everybody out the door and reduce their staff.
right. Unfortunately, there was a lot in the news last year about layoffs due to AI, and I don't believe that all of them were due to AI, but it certainly made the headlines, right? Big companies, so Amazon and Meta and others were
Mhm.
in the news for layoffs due to AI. So I do think that layoffs are probably an inevitability at some organizations. But the organizations we're talking to really do want to retain their people. So they want
Mhm.
to look at the way to redesign jobs and reskill their people. And then as attrition occurs, they can make the decision of whether they want to bring another person on board or not. So the answer is yes. We're finding a lot of support among organizations. I still think we will see the headlines for the next year or so where layoffs happen and it is tied to AI, whether that is true or not.
Do you see new and emerging careers developing because of AI? And how can you share what those are and how our listeners could maybe prepare for those emerging skill sets and emerging roles?
Oh, it's such a great question. Yes. So yes, the answer is yes. I see emerging careers. There are the obvious ones like AI programmers, right? So if you are an engineer or software developer
Okay.
today, you might shift. But the other thing that I see emerging is AI governance. So again, that situation where in a team, humans and AI are working alongside one another. Someone
Hmm.
needs to manage that AI and someone needs to like quality check the output, right? And
Hmm.
retrain it from time to time. So I think that AI governor is going to be a career, a role we see popping up across organizations as well. And then I think the role of leader is changing. My co-founder and I are writing a book actually on this subject of how the role of leader will need to change as teams get bigger and
Interesting.
broader. Yeah. And they involve both human beings and AI agents.
Well, that just sounds amazing. As we transition, are there any tips that you'd like to give the listeners or words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with the listeners around AI and life and work?
Mm-hmm. I would. So I would say don't get overwhelmed. There are millions of AI tools available, some very specialized AI tools. I would suggest this. Pick a main one. So whether that's ChatGPT or Copilot or Claude or Perplexity, or
Mhm.
Gemini, those five are kind of the main five. They could do lots of things. Those are kind of the Swiss Army knives of tools.
Well,
So
Claude is my friend, Christy.
Claude is my friend too. I'm glad we have
Hmm.
that in common. Yes, absolutely. Do you name your AI, Melanie?
Sage.
Sage. Yes. Mine is Mona. So yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. My AI has a name. Pick a main one. And then what I do is I ask Mona when I need to do something else that's really specialized. So right now I'm editing a video and I was asking Mona, tell me what tool I should use. These are the things I want to do in my video. And then Mona recommends those very specialized tools to me and I go check those out. So, pick with one main, find your best friend, name it if you want, and then use your AI to suggest the millions of specialized tools that you might choose among. So don't get overwhelmed. It doesn't need to be overwhelming.
Well, gosh, I thank you for that, Christy, because sometimes I am. So, as we close, can you tell our listeners how they can find you? If we have organizations that want the consultation that you provide through the Rising Tide Cooperative and Talent Rewire, how can they find you?
Oh, great question. So Christy, Kristi, at risingtidecooperative.com. That's a lot of letters. You can also find me at Christy at talentrewire.ai. So when you think of Talent Rewire, think of AI. That's the cue there. It's a few less letters to have to type when you're composing an email. You can find me in either one of those places. I'm also on LinkedIn, and I would love, love, love to connect and chat with the listeners about how they can start using AI fearlessly.
Love it. You heard it, everyone. Christy Broom. Find her on LinkedIn as well as her website, Rising Tide Cooperative and Talent Rewire. Thank you so much, Christy, for these nuggets. Remember, everyone, that if this podcast was of value to you, please like and share. And remember that you can live whole and lead well. Make it a great day.